start the meeting. It's 5:33. Welcome everyone. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. I need a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. I do need a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 742061B.
Move to enter into executive session for Idaho Code 742061B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We need a roll call vote.
Trustee Quimby?
Yes.
Trustee Grissom?
Yes.
Chair Thompson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Baines?
Yes.
On that note, we will depart to go into executive session and be back shortly. Okay, so we've come out of executive session and we'll move into our action items. There is no post-executive session action at this time. First and foremost, we do need to give direction to the CFO to begin the process with the State Board of Education so that we can be declared in a financial emergency, so that we can declare the financial emergency, since the levy did not pass. That will help us along the way in declaring the financial emergency. If we are able to run the levy again and it passes, then the financial emergency will be rescinded, so that you all understand. There is statute that governs how we can declare a financial emergency, and we cannot just declare it. It has to be approved by the State Board of Education in order for us to declare it. Jessica has provided us with a, it's not there.
Can I just clarify?
Please.
Wow, that's loud. Yeah. I was just going to say, the financial emergency declaration is whenever there is 1.5% loss of the budget. So even if, when the levy passes, if the levy passes, there's the possibility we're still going to be 1.5% loss. Correct, yes. So, you know, it may go away or it may not go away.
True. Thanks for clarifying that. So, the document you created was based on our statement saying, just show us what we can, show us what a reduction of 9.52 million would be. What you've given us totals 13 $13,761,434.52. Is that accurate by your understanding?
Is somebody putting
What?
that typically happens if somebody's mic is too close to their heart? So I'll move that down.
Some of the line items are, if you select, for, oh my gosh.
That's okay. I don't know how to make that go away.
She's getting feedback from somebody, from something.
Some of the line items, for example, you can select salary-based apportionment and then select all the positions because that would be double dipping.
Okay,
So there are some items that if you choose one, you can't choose the others, and we'd be happy to talk through that as you pick and choose.
okay. Well, some of what I know that we were hoping to see on here wasn't provided. I know at the last workshop that we had, Randy suggested running the levy at 7.5 million, so reducing by 2 million. So, Randy, we can go through what it is that you have prepared in the sense that that's what you'd like to see. And since some of the items are on there, I know from
Unfortunately, some of them have like some of these items have other individuals like
okay.
This item, or this document can be duplicated, we can change the project. We can change the projected shortfall to be the difference between the 9.52 and the 7.52, so the 2 million. So we could make a copy and do one for 2 million that outlines.
the problem is like with the elementary specialists, I don't want to cut all 8 positions. So that's
As we did in the main special meeting when we went through the budget cuts, we can adjust the line items as needed as well.
Well, and does the, when you're designating 16 personnel, 8 personnel, 6 personnel, 9 personnel, 1 personnel, does that include wages, salaries, and benefits? Okay, but on the apportionment, the salary-based apportionment, it does not. It's just wages. Okay. I believe that there needs to be more reduced at the district office. That was one of the things. So are you two close together? You're off.
Just hold the top button down, Randy. Hold it down until it goes off.
y'all can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not. Mine turned off. Is it that yours is on? Yours turned off? I turned mine off. So keep yours.
We'll set this one here between us then.
Okay, so I believe there needs to be more positions at the district office level that needs to be reduced.
Do you have a recommendation for which positions you're looking at?
You have to pass that on. We can't.
What do you mean?
Oh, go ahead.
No.
Well, the positions are not multiple people. That's why we have executive session.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because mine,
Right.
that's just it. I can't
Right.
talk
Here's
to
the
positions right now because they have people attached
Right.
to them, and
Right.
I can't do that outside of executive session. So
right. Right.
Okay.
I have 1.9 million in positions.
Yeah, I hear you.
It sucks, I know, and I'm sorry that is the reality. I tried to keep our classrooms and students with staff in
Teaching staff.
as whole as possible and not affecting the classroom.
Okay.
But I will talk to the other items. Our transportation director did a fantastic job looking at routes to keep buses closer to the main roads. So that I went through and chose the bus routes that we would not be responsible for in lieu of dollar amounts. So mine doesn't mirror hers exactly, but I did identify $40,000 there. I reduced the summer school options for nearly $60,000 there. The district office cuts of approximately 20%, all of them for $11,893. Going to in-house garbage service of $27,000. Eliminating the shipping containers for $6,300.
It's reducing, that's not the whole amount of shipping containers, it more than cuts it in half, but we do have to surplus some items, so that's why I didn't have all of them on there.
Okay, well, we'll just eliminate all of them and you give me the dollar amount for the entire, because we asked for those to be done away with years ago. Transportation identified $1,500 in supplies and district-wide cell phone charges of $20,829. So those reductions is another $127,627. So I put my pencil to paper for the $2 million that I said I would be willing to rerun the levy at $7.52 million. And that stands. I've identified my $2 million.
Okay.
And actually just slightly over.
Are we certain that the air conditioning at TLE is $40,000, or are we guessing on that?
I'm gonna try and talk loud enough.
That's fine.
It's a rough estimate. TLE is one of the few buildings that does run air conditioning, and they have the highest utility costs. Talking with our new facilities director, the type of cooling towers that they have there. Tim, I don't know if you would like to talk to it a little bit more, but that is our best guess estimate of what it would be to not run the air conditioner at that building compared to other similar sized building utilities.
Okay, is TLE the only building with air conditioning?
We have 2 other buildings with air conditioning. Obviously, we need to still air condition server rooms and things like that.
Right.
But there's 2 other buildings that Tim has identified that are not reflected on here that we could have potential utility savings.
Okay. Are you I guess I'm a little challenged on the pay to play for athletics and co-curricular. You have that at $2 million, and then you have athletic trainers at $128,000. Why was athletic trainers not included in the pay to pay for athletics and co-curricular?
The portion of what we're currently paying for the athletic trainers with the new contract with Northwest Specialty Hospital, basically that's the savings that we would be able to build into the budget next year that wasn't built into the budget this year. We didn't have that agreement with them until October of this year, so we didn't have to fully budget for them, so that's the difference. So it is a realized savings for next year. We budgeted the full amount for this year.
Okay. If we were to rerun the levy specifically for athletics,
The trainer portion is already in that $2 million number. So the 15% that we pay is in that $2 million number. The difference, that 128, is a reduction to the budget next year.
are we able to create a line item on the ballot, we would need to list the $2 million, but to be able to hand out to the population, are we able to show, you know, athletic directors is this much, football supply is this much, BPA is
Do you
this
want
much?
it, typically we don't break it down per sport, we can, if you would like to, but even on the ballot, we can get more details. If you look at Coeur d'Alene School District, for example, their ballot language this year was very, very detailed. Ours were broad categories, so we can get more detail on our ballot language. But definitely, and anything, if we do rerun the levy, we would be able to itemize it very clearly based on this information that you have tonight.
We're going to have to.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, so that's where I've asked a few times for specificity as to like what is it that we need, because
So this number, if you look at the information that we presented on December 18th, a lot of the breakout that was in there is in that $2 million number. The other things that we added, we have 2 events custodians that are part of athletics that are not currently charged to the athletic budget. So putting that in there, the assistant, the middle school ADs, the AD salaries.
So with the events custodians, is that part of the 33 that we have employed, or is that in addition to?
That's part of the total number.
Okay.
Yeah. So we will break it out. I did put uniforms back into it, and that's why we're at $2 million as well, because obviously we would love to continue a uniform rotation. We just could not do it based on what we were levying currently. We had asked for 1.3 million previously. The difference between 1.3 million and 2 million is pretty substantial. And so just making sure that we're accounting for everything that directly contributes to our athletics.
Great.
So the 2 million, Jessica, is to fund the entire district from coaches to uniforms to travel for everything.
The state
Okay.
travel, yes.
Okay.
At the December 18th meeting, that was part of the conversation. You said you wanted all of it, even if line items were separate. So the reason why she pulled out the athletic trainers is trying to be transparent about that savings. There was no way to represent that. So, but the 2 million is everything.
Okay.
Well, the reality is if we don't have the MOU next year, then we have to pay that.
Right.
Yes.
So the salary in its entirety should be made up in that budget, and we just need to be transparent about it.
So right now, only the 15% that we're currently have the MOU is in there. If you would like, we could add the 128,000 back into it, and that would put athletics at 2.1.
Well, I think we need to, because
Yeah.
then if something happens, we have the funding. If nothing happens, then we have that money within that program or that line item
Yep.
that can stay there.
Trustee Dean, for the dry boxes, that would be $11,640 for that line item.
No, that's a big difference.
I noticed that you put on here the Coeur d'Alene.
I'm sorry, what was that number again?
The dry boxes, instead of 6,300, it would become 11,640.
Thank you.
We have on here eliminate CDS press subscription. Is that, what is that? I mean, is
We get a daily paper.
for all the schools
It's
and
just at the district
just
office.
at the,
Yeah, that we are able to pull information.
okay. Seems like
We've already eliminated it.
Okay,
so-
okay. I know that the board has asked and on various different, I mean, we have not subscriptions, but I guess membership fees that we should be willing to forego into like the chambers, et cetera. For right now, I mean, we're in an emergency crisis. That is not something that we need to just take lightly. We need to eliminate all of that.
a question about the district office / base admin assistant. Is that the only person we have that's responsible for base, or do we have somebody that's, okay.
I'm in charge of base.
Okay. Okay. And can you tell me how many custodians does each building have, or does it just vary depending on the building?
It varies depending on the building.
Okay.
And they may have the same number of employees, but the hours might be slightly different, so
Okay.
we can prepare. I know we have a document that's already prepared for that, but we can bring that information forward if you would like it.
Yeah, well, we had a staff by building, and we got a bunch of different ones that we tried to consolidate into a single spreadsheet.
Brooke has provided one that has.
At the last meeting. But we have,
Unfortunately, we just found out that that is not as accurate as we
Yeah.
would really like things to be.
okay.
So it's missing some positions, it has some positions in places that, per the superintendent, not just.
We had positions that were missing in some of our schools.
So if we moved all the safety, all the sports, back to the levy, what was the transportation? Was that for new buses, or was that? I know we had a couple of orders for buses, but we could never get our hands on them.
42 custodians identified within the buildings, but then there were also other custodians for shorter time
Talking about the
positions,
vans?
but we don't know.
We can't hear anything anybody's saying up there.
What I was saying is that, in answer to Trustee Grissom's question, on the document that was provided to us, between custodians and head custodians within the buildings, we have 42, but that doesn't include, or it may, we don't know, other custodial positions throughout the district, such as in facilities or transportation or other places where custodians popped up. So we don't know if that's inclusive in that 42, such as someone's doing multiple building locations, or if those are just additional persons on top of the 42 that we calculated.
I just want to add, unfortunately, Brooke isn't here. She's out. She's really sick, so she probably would be able to speak to that and clarify, but she's not here because she's really sick, so.
So,
Try this.
you need to turn yours on.
Yeah.
Okay. She's gonna be.
And then my question was regarding the transportation that we initially had put on the levy. Was that for the buses that we were still trying to get our hands on, or what was that for?
No, that was the difference between what we
Oh,
got
yes.
to pay for transportation and what we actually spent on transportation. The bus purchases come from different line items.
Yeah.
How many buses do we still not have filled that we've authorized? Do you know?
We currently have a bus bid out right now, but we received all the buses, other than the activity buses that are canceled on us. We've received all buses that we have a purchase order for.
Okay,
So currently, we're not waiting for anything other than some bids.
okay.
And the dollars we were going to use for the activity buses, is that still set aside?
That's set aside in the board approved projects fund.
So the line item for the transportation then needs to go back to the levy
To the 1 million.
for the 1 million, because,
If we're not making any changes, Jessica's addressing some of that overage with the reduction in the number of stops that she's suggesting, so it would be less.
okay.
Well, I
But there still would be a difference, I guess. There would still be some transportation costs that would be covered by transportation dollars potentially that we would want to make sure we're on the levy.
Randy, what was your dollar figure? Did you do that on yours, the transportation?
Yep. So the bus routes that I looked at, I identified 40,000.
Okay,
That was my reduction.
okay.
And that was based on Jessica's calculations for busing and keeping buses on main roads and not going into some of those neighborhoods. But not all of those. I didn't select all of those. I selected only the ones that we wouldn't have to pay in lieu of transportation dollars for.
Right.
So I kind of picked and chose.
Okay.
And Lisa had talked about the single busing routes to where buses are assigned to a specific school and they shuttle those kids to and from. That being on a single route, we need to understand what that cost is.
We would have to purchase additional buses to be able to do that.
I understand that. I'm questioning whether or not it needs to be 12. I don't know. I mean, that's just what was thrown at us. But
There are a couple things that do go into that. For example, if we're going to go to a 4-day-school week, if we're changing bell schedules, things like that, if we're going to assign specific buses to specific schools, we will need to purchase more buses.
okay. Will we need to purchase more buses if we're not assigning specific buses to schools?
Based on what Jessica prepared on the routes that she was offering to consolidate, we would not necessarily need to purchase additional buses because we would be going down drivers. We would be going, if we took everything that she proposed, we would be going from 27 routes to 18 routes.
Oh, perfect.
So it's a significant decrease.
That is a
Yay,
significant
yay.
decrease.
Yay, thank you.
But we also can't have bus drivers just waiting like she had stated in the meeting. So
They would be waiting, so the way that it's planned is, she had very specific times outlined for the routes. So, we would still leave buses up at Timberlake and just have one come down. People would leave during the day and then come back for the afternoon routes.
okay.
Please know that that scenario did not take into account anything other than getting kids to and from school. So there's always those outliers that are a little difficult. As you know, it's a very nuanced process when you start looking at grade field trips and athletic trips and things like that. That doesn't account for any of that. That's literally just getting people to school.
I understand that, but the money to transport for athletics should be part of the athletic budget.
It is.
Okay.
You made me think of something when you were saying that. Do we have a smaller bus that we use to transport special education students or any of those students? Do we use? Okay.
They're a 48-passenger bus
Okay.
versus a 71-passenger bus.
All right. Well, I think the other thing we can take off is the retirements and resignations. I mean, that's nearly $1 million. Obviously, we can accept those. If by chance one of those positions may need to be filled, they would just have to come to the board and we would have to look at the likelihood of that.
I will say that some of those positions will need to be filled, but we should be able to use our category 1 positions to take care of that.
Well, you'll have a better understanding of that when we have enrollment and we get closer to the end of the school
Right.
year. So I think for sure there's a math position at DHS that has to be filled. There's a few others that have to be, but looking, all of that would be based on enrollment and where we sit come
Right.
September. Yeah.
Right, okay.
So that's the same for those category 1s as well, because most of those positions are elementary. At this point, they have to be filled. There's no scenario where they can't just absorb that. But depending on what enrollment looks like at the start of the school year, there could be some absorption that happens, but we won't know that until we have a better projection
So for right now, all I can do is go by what's on the spreadsheet, so I'm saying choose the nearly $1 million and cut it. The other thing is do we know or have any clue whether are we gonna continue down this ADA funding?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
The
So,
governor has no appetite and neither do the legislators. to
for
go back
enrollment,
to it.
okay.
The only change that they have proposed so far that obviously has to get through legislation this year is a weighted per student average. So we would get a little bit more money for our special education population. There's a couple different weights that are in there. They shared that information with us at the December State Board of Education meeting. It would be potentially an additional 1.5 million to the districts, but they're kind of pulling that from here and there to get there. And we won't know those numbers until we get
Right.
to April.
Right, or until we see our students.
Yeah, right.
Some of them, we won't know any of those numbers. Okay. So then we have to look at those numbers, and those are the numbers we budget on, you know.
Why would we discontinue our contribution to K-Tech? I'm curious.
We don't want to discontinue, but we felt like that has to be something. We put everything on there to try to get to 9.52. I mean, most of these are not things we want to get rid of. It's just 9.52 is a lot, and so when you're looking at a $400,000 payment, we felt like we had to provide you information regarding what K-Tech looked like.
Okay.
But obviously, taking K-Tech off the table would be a huge detriment to our kids.
Well, I don't think any of us would ever consider that.
No.
I would also just say publicly that when we first opened K-Tech, or made the decision to open K-Tech, the 3 school districts made that kind of collective agreement
Correct.
together. And if Lakeland were to pull out, it puts Fort Lake Post Falls in a financial disadvantage. So also.
So the other thing we can move to, I mean, I look at it more as what we're moving to the levy instead of what we're getting rid of, is the school resource officers and the district safety specialists.
Would you include crossing guards as part of that safety and security?
Yeah, I'm thinking that the same thing. I mean, that is what they do.
The other part of that conversation is there's been discussion about adding additional armed guards or SROs. So is that something in that dollar amount? Are we looking at?
Well, what we talked about was if the county can't work with us on the amount that we pay their people as opposed to ours that we hire, we just can't continue with the MOU. It's just, it's not fair to the people we hire or, you know, our employees or the taxpayers. So what we would do is, because there is such a difference, we could actually hire that many more people if we got rid of the agreement with the county. Because I think it's, go ahead.
Right now, we're about, I would say, $15,000 in between what we're paying the county and what we're paying for salary benefits for our AESSs. The only concern that I have is if we're not able to hire an armed district safety specialist and we don't have an SRO contract, then we don't have someone in the school.
Right, well, we're not talking about doing any of that. All we're saying is move this to the levy dollars. And we know that we have that pocket of money, whether it's continue or hoping that the county will work with us. If not, we have to do something else. We're just in that position.
Right.
And to be very transparent right now, this does not include, we have a grant currently for one of our SROs that will end in 3 years. So
Yep.
in the next 2 years, so when we do run the next levy, that number would have to go up a little bit to continue to have that person on staff because we will lose grant funding for it.
Now, in trying to understand the IT department had 14 persons, but we've got various things on here. Not knowing specifically what one goes to that, that department needs to be reduced. when we've got a 5A school that runs with 5, 6 in that whole entire department, and we're at 14 and we're not a 5A school, that's problematic, and we need to consider reductions there.
Would you like me to point out which of these line items were specific to technology?
Sure.
Okay. So you have the
28. I see a technology admin assistant.
Yep, so your technology admin assistant, your Chrome OS G Suite, small device specialist, and your building lab techs, those 8 positions are part of this 14 for technology.
Building lab techs, though, are 6 of them are at the elementary to cover specialists.
And then low voltage technician. So there's 9 positions on there. There are currently 9 positions. The low voltage technician is also part of our technology department.
Okay. But we don't have there's a few elementaries that do have computer labs, but not all of them have computer labs. And when it was insisted that we go to the one-on-one with Chromebooks, we were told that the computer labs would be coming out and being repurposed, but that wasn't done in every single building. I'm not asking you to speak to that, I'm just sharing my information. One of the frustrations is we spend roughly $500,000 every year going through and upgrading Chromebooks and doing all of that. It would be beneficial to know if, what the cost, if we're not going to do $500,000 every year for Chromebooks, we've got schools, if we move Chromebooks to carts, if we need to see what that's going to look like and the cost savings of it. We have schools with computer labs. Do they need Chromebooks as well if there are computer labs? So those sorts of questions need to be, you're all looking at her, so, okay.
So a couple of things, I guess, and we can certainly look at what you're asking and bring that information for the board, but
Perfect.
There's a line item specifically for hardware and software for technology that can't be used for salaries or anything else. So we'd have to look at, but there are other things we could be using it for, like our Skyward and those kinds of things. Now, one thing that I think is important for us to keep in mind, especially at the elementary level, is that our K-3 students every month need to have access to a computer of some sort to do their monthly ISIP assessment. So that's really how we monitor that they're acquiring the reading skills they need to have to be proficient at the end of the school year. The other thing that having as many Chromebooks as we have right now is doing for us is protecting some instructional time in the spring when we get to assessment time, like spring testing, because we can test the whole school basically all at once and move our testing as far into the window as we can so that we maximize instructional time. When we had at Ben Kiefer, when I was principal, we had 2 computer labs and we were testing for 6 weeks straight. And so it changes the dynamic in the school, it changes what the teachers are focusing on, and it's not as much instruction as it is test and prep. And I want to protect the instructional time. So having the access to the Chromebooks does help us with that part too. But we will bring to you what it could look like if maybe we change so we're not purchasing computers every year. Maybe we do it every other year and we use the money. But we can bring you that information. But there are some other things, I guess, just to think about from just the way the schools run. At our secondary levels, we're using the map testing now, and so they're in the same boat, and they've gotten really creative with the way they've put their schedules together so that they're not really negatively impacting instructional time to get that assessment data.
Right, but I guess my struggle is if we've got monies coming through career tech education and state technology grants to the tune of $702,000, and we're spending $500,000 on Chromebooks, and we have a department of 14 people, it's not adding up. So we need to come back down in alignment with what we actually have to spend.
Well, a lot of our tech people, there is some technology money that we use for salaries, but the biggest chunk of money we get in technology we can't use for salaries. So many of our tech people are paid out of the general fund.
Right, and we don't have anything from Career Tech Education or State Technology Grant categorized for salaries or benefits. It's all for purchased services and supplies and materials. And then we have 13,000 coming from the unappropriated balance. So I hear you, but we've got to get back into balance, because that's not.
Am
All right.
You have am I not saying something right?
The funds, trustee, often the funds that we have set aside in those separate funds, like Superintendent Arnold stated, was they're restricted by the state for only purchase services and supplies. We cannot use those for salaries and benefits, which doesn't mean what you were saying.
Right.
I apologize if I'm restating.
No, I understand that. I do.
So, another line item we get $127,055 for college and career advisors and student mentors, but we're currently at just below $600,000, $576,808. So we need to cut some of that too. Obviously, that's, we get 100 and some odd thousand, but it shows the 576,000 here.
We do, Superintendent Arnold, we do receive a specific line item for college and career and counselors, which is the amount that was reported on the state report that Trustee Grissom had asked for at a previous meeting. That does go directly to the salaries and benefits. That could just be used for counselors. We do not have to have a specific college and career position. I do believe Idaho code requires that we have a certain number of counselors per student population. I looked up her.
No, there's nothing in code. What they do is they follow the recommendation of the Counseling Association, and it's 1 to every 250 population. And for I have that all broken out per school or grade level, whatever, but I did work on that also, but I did follow those guidelines along with what they're saying. So we are, if we follow their recommendation for the entirety of the district, we should have 12 to 14 depending on the need of the students. So basically, you end up with 1 at every school.
Can I just say, as a parent of a graduating senior last year, and I'm going to name somebody, I don't know if he's here or not, Sebastian was critical. I work in the school district. He was critical in helping my son fill out his FAFSA, get all of his scholarships. I mean, just all of the deadlines, all for seniors trying to navigate that world and not understand everything is digital. There is not a person available just to pick up the phone and call and get explanations. And our counselors do a great job, but those college and career advisors are essential to our seniors. And having just lived it, and I have 3 kids back to back, and I still needed Sebastian, that I just feel like that's a really important position.
Well, we do get money for it. That's what I'm saying. We get funding for however many, whatever those units are.
We have 15 counselors and 2 college and career readiness people identified on the spreadsheet that we were given. What I don't know is if the 2 college and career readiness is embedded in the 15 counselors that we were identified with, or if it's outside of that. So then that would be that we have 17 counselors inclusive of college and career readiness. What Trustee Grissom's saying is we're top heavy.
Yeah.
So
I do want to point out that those counselors are also part of our people services calculation for salary-based apportionment, so we do receive some additional funding outside of that 127,000.
Right. Yeah, depending on the student population need. And I did that, believe me. I took every support unit along with the IDAPA, along with federal, along with the state statute, and I broke it down to population, to school, to building, and obviously in some instances the student population is going to change. But I have all of that for the district and for every school at every grade level. And my units were exactly what the state gave us. So with the fluctuation, depending on the population need, it could be 225 versus the 223. So I know that's there. You know, I'm just saying that it was on the list, but we get some money for it, so we just have to figure out what, like some of the other positions, like we don't need to get rid of all of it, you know, but we need to understand, you know, what do we have the funding for.
it was mentioned to us about closing the school, but we weren't provided what the cost savings would be in making that choice. And what I'm curious about is we talked about also establishing a behavioral school within a school. And go ahead. So not understanding what the cost benefit could be in going for that route, because when I'm looking at, and I understand federal guidelines, et cetera, are all impacting this, but we have 44 one-on-one paras. If we have a behavioral school where we can do 3-to-1 or 2-to-1 in that specified environment, what is the cost savings for that going to be? Because then additionally, we have 52 regular SPED paras on top of the 44 one-on-one paras. And how can we save if the idea, because I do think there is a huge benefit to putting a behavioral school into another larger school to try and help take behavior problems out of mainstream classes so that the teachers aren't having to be disrupted all day long trying to manage behaviors. But I don't know what the cost savings in moving in that direction is. If there is one, I don't know. So that would be some good information to have, and I'm not exactly sure where you can pull the data for finances on that from.
I think that would have to be an executive session, just because you really have to start talking about kids and looking
Okay.
at IEPs. It's IEP specific. Are you willing to tell parents that it's an IEP decision? So it's a little bit more multifaceted and probably
Okay.
not something discussed publicly. But you have to start that conversation, and then where would that be held, and then what do you see, what are the parameters that you would, if you were going to do
Right.
a school in a school type model,
Right.
what resources do you want available to that? Do we have all the resources we need? So,
Right.
and that would be dependent on, students that we're moving over there, but again, that's IEP specific, so
Okay.
I think if you want to, that's something the board wants to entertain, that's probably worth having Kelsey Thatcher here, and it's an executive session, so she can really talk about students and types of students and IEPs.
Okay. Well, that was something that was brought to us. So if she needs to be part of the conversation to keep moving that ball, then we need to have that.
I noticed on the list that you gave us also was the Skyward software, but don't we get like technology funds that we can use to pay for that?
Yes.
Okay.
It just hadn't been moved, and so when we were going through our digital curriculum, we realized that it was coming out of general fund, and that is,
Okay.
whatever, 78, I don't know the number off the top of my head, could get moved over to the state fund.
Yep, okay, perfect.
So it is reflected here as a cut to the general fund to see if we could use those state technology dollars.
Oh, okay, so we can show it as a cut, but we're not getting rid of the software, okay.
And in fact, just so the board is aware, we have kind of a forced transition with our software that we have to implement by the end of the summer for state reporting purposes. So we're staying with Skyward. We're just having a transition to their cumulative platform versus the platform we're on right now. It'll have better reporting functionality, but it is kind of a forced transfer that the platform is providing a decent discount to us to do the transition.
Perfect.
And part of that funding is we are required to have an LMS system, and so they give us funding for it.
Right.
We are required to have it.
Yeah. And also the other thing, and it might be like you just explained with the software, line 35 at college and high school dual credit stipends. Doesn't that come from NIC?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
yes.
So if we cut it from here, we're saying we're just cutting it from the general fund and it would just come directly from the NIC money, or?
No, that NIC money goes into the general fund, so it has to be paid out of the general fund.
But
So-
the reason it's showing up here is the money that comes from the universities can be used for a couple of different things. One is supplies, materials, and resources to support the learning in the classroom. And then the last thing listed is the stipends. And so one of the things that we could consider is maybe giving partial stipend and then using some of the money for the supplies and materials, so it's not coming out of the general fund to fund those needs.
Right, so I think what we need to do then, this needs to be 2 line items because it's actually different between the universities and NIC. NIC has their own stipulations separate. Yeah, so we need to see, and I don't remember.
NNU's letter to us says they want the money specifically going to the teacher. NIC gives us a longer list of what we can use the dollars for.
Yep, okay.
Those teachers that teach, though, dual credit courses, are they teaching courses also at the traditional high school level?
Yes, I don't think we have any high school teachers that are just teaching dual credit. They definitely teach regular high school classes, and then up to 3 classes a day could be dual credit. I don't think we have anybody who teaches more than 3 dual credit classes a day. I do, sorry, this is new information, just so the board knows. I do have a meeting with President Swain from NIC next week. In Coeur d'Alene, they have been piloting a system where instead of sending money as a stipend, they actually provide a portion of that teacher's salary and benefits as a reimbursement back to the district. Because they're teaching their courses on our campus. And so he wants to talk to me about that, so I'll bring that information back to the board. So that for NIC could look different next year.
I just want to clarify that on the pay-to-pay for athletics and co-curriculars, that would include any type of stipend that we would be paying any coaching staff, assistant coach, anything like that.
All of it's included. You have asked us at the last meeting to bring everything, so that's
Right.
everything.
Okay.
I'll include the 128 back in that number, but
Okay.
to combine them.
With you reaching out to the state for them to certify that we are in a financial emergency, do you feel that that would be something that could be brought to the January board meeting? Okay, perfect.
I will do my best. We have to have January board meeting posted this Friday. So whether or not someone's available.
Oh, yeah, I'm thrown off on my week,
Yeah,
so,
no,
okay.
we have 2 days to complete financial assessment for the board meeting because the first is a holiday.
Right.
And then we have to post on the 3rd.
Okay.
So I don't know if I'm going to get a hold of anyone at the state in the next couple of days, but I will do my best.
Okay.
I do have the state statute, I do have the information for it, whether or not I can get confirmation from the state is the only thing that I'm not sure of.
Okay.
One of the things that we've talked about recently is the boarding school week. Is that something that the board wants us to continue to look at as far as savings? Because we believe we could get between $500,000 and $1 million in savings over the course of the school year by doing that. We won't know for sure where it lands until we do it for a year to see what ADA and all that looks like, but there are cost savings there also.
I think it would be beneficial to have that, because it may be a situation where if the public doesn't want to go to a 4-day work week, school week, we can run that inclusive in a supplemental levy showing that we need this many dollars to maintain a 5-day school week.
Okay.
Okay.
We have outlined some of that in this budget document. If you subtotal the implement 4-day school week, the estimated dollar amount right now is $686,000 in savings by going to a 4-day school week. Obviously, without doing it in reality, that's our best guess estimate. I'm sure there's other things that we're not thinking of to include in that line item, and I'm sure there's things that we're not factoring in the other way as well. But we did our best guess estimate as far as if we truly were to close the schools on that Friday, the reduction in custodial staffing hours and the reduction in instructional paraprofessional hours alone, that's a 7.5% reduction in hours for both of those groups that they're not working on Friday, including the increased bell time. So for the other 4 days. So there are definitely some savings there that we have identified already to that conversation.
Are you talking about what was on the levy budget information 24-25 spreadsheet?
What is currently outlined on line 62 through 66 on this budget prioritized reduction spreadsheet.
Well, it is the spreadsheet. I just copied and pasted it.
But the one that was attached to the board book, Jessica, just shows implement 4-day school week, reduce Friday guest teachers, and it just has the 134 through 14. That's the document that I'm
like close to $1 million in closing.
$1,074,155.
We talked about this in great detail last time, and I'm just gonna speak for me. I don't know if I'm assuming that Lisa and I are on the same page with this, but I would definitely be recommending a 4-day work week instead of repurposing. And repurposing would be displacing 240, 250 families. So we put it on there because it is a cost saving. We're trying to be transparent, but it's definitely not something we're recommending. This would be a significant hardship to our staff, to our kids, to our families. So again, we put it on here, but definitely not something we recommend. 4-day work week is something we would recommend, but felt like we had to provide you that information.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think, just for the community members who are here, if we were to have to cut the full $9.52 million, and looking at the amount of staff that we would have to reduce, the requirement or the need for that money is because of our small neighborhood schools. So if we didn't have the 9.52 or a portion of that to keep us going, the district would need to look different. And so we were trying to come up with how can the district look different and give the board some options, but that's one of them.
What is all included in the category 1 personnel that you have on the list? Like what positions might that be?
Those are all teaching positions that are, I would.
So this first year.
Explain it better than I can.
Many of them are kindergarten, first, second.
Just the
third
new
grade
teachers.
Mhm.
Okay.
But but a lot of them are at our primary level. So even though statutorily a category 1 position ends at the end of the year, those are not necessarily positions that we can do without. So they're there, but we're going to need to fill some of those. At the last board meeting, in my follow-up to the board, I had recommended that we make sure that we schedule a meeting middle of August, a special meeting to address where we are with enrollment so that we can make decisions about which positions we're going to need to fill if this is part of the cut.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I wasn't sure if we were talking teaching staff or something else. Okay.
There are a few secondary positions there, but most of them are elementary. And again, if you look at the last enrollment that was provided a month ago, maybe even with adding those positions, we still have some elementary classrooms with they're right on the tip of what we would be comfortable in a classroom. So I think right now, if you look of our projected enrollment, we wouldn't be able to cut any of those positions. Now, if enrollment goes down or when you roll those numbers up, that could look different. But as of right now, we need every ounce of those people to come back.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of closing schools or getting rid of teachers. I think I've made that clear. So I don't remember, how many nurses do we have in the district right now? 6. And are they stationed, they share them between a couple of schools, or they just float back and forth?
Yeah, last year and this year we had students who in their health plan require a nurse to be on site all day long. So we do have a situation where one nurse is assigned to one school, but the rest of them go to several different schools.
So how often do we come across that? I mean, if we cut these 2 positions, I mean, could we absorb 2 more students that have that same requirement?
Not and keep the rest of the schools safe, no.
Okay.
No. And again, these are not our recommendations, but what we tried to do is identify everything we've added since we increased the levy so that the board and the community could see kind of what that has been supporting and then some. And so that's why that's on there. But we have so many medically fragile kids in the district right now that that would not be an area I would recommend cutting.
So did we get to consolidate this summer school program and one custodial position from each building? Was that already on there? And the district office base admin, I don't remember if that got clicked or not.
No, nothing's
Oh, we
been
haven't
clicked.
used anything.
Oh, okay.
And consolidating the summer school program, what does that entail?
We'll just go back to a model that we used to use where Mr. Uzzi, in order to participate in summer school, you have to be identified as an at-risk student, and that's how it's funded through the state. So it always, Mr. Uzzi always does the application for us through Mountain View. And in the past, he was the administrator, but also the teacher for the math and science. And then we would need an ELA teacher and a special educator, and they would do everything through Plato. That's how we used to do it. And so the difference really is that the way we're running summer school right now is we are running it at 2 sites. So you have 2 administrators, and then you have certified teachers at each site for 6 through 12 in science, social studies, math, and ELA. And so we're paying all of those people, but there's actually direct instruction happening and some Plato time. So we would save money, but the offset of that is not
It's all
necessarily
online.
the best quality instruction for kids who are at risk and who need to recover credits.
And where are we doing that right now? So is it, you said there's 2 sites, is there one?
One at Timberlake
Okay.
High School, and one at Lakeland.
Okay. And did you say we get some funding for that?
We do.
We do.
Yeah, and it's, the funding is based the same way it is during the regular school year as far as average daily attendance. And again, anybody who attends has to be identified as an at-risk student. Or we don't get funded for them, because it's an at-risk program to the state.
The funding that we currently get, is that covering the cost of summer school?
We have tried to pull that out. It's really hard because they just lump it all into the salary-based apportionment and they don't necessarily pull it out for us. And so we have had to kind of do our best guess as far as how many kids are participating, knowing what we're paying. So Jessica can speak to that better.
As we all know, the salary-based apportionment doesn't cover everything. So no, it does not cover the full cost of that program.
All right, thank you.
If we change the model to the one that's recommended here, it would cover the full cost of summer school.
So if we go back to online only,
Because we're reducing the staff tremendously to do it that way.
I would be remiss to not mention that our admin team feels pretty strongly that we should not consolidate this. They have had very great success with the in-person instruction that they're receiving, so that will have a negative impact if we do consolidate the right person to talk to this, and I apologize, I'm trying to do it my best justice, but I know that they would prefer not to bring it back to an online platform.
Then we need to know what the dollar amounts are to do it, how we're currently doing it, where it's benefiting students, and we can add that to the supplemental levy as a line item.
Would you do the difference between what it would look like if we did the model that we used to use that was fully covered by what we got paid by the state, the difference between what that would cost us versus what it would cost to continue to do it, or just put the full
Difference.
It's
Well,
the difference.
I would say the difference.
yeah, okay. I just want to make sure that
Not
we're,
the full entire amount. I would just say the difference.
The difference between-
being reimbursed by the state for the other.
We're
But it's
getting,
not paying it at
yeah,
100%.
so it's the salary-based apportionment, it's just part of that attendance and enrollment that goes into our total support unit. So basically what we could look at and say is, we're getting X amount of dollars from salary-based apportionment that covers teachers' wages, and that difference, that percent difference would be what we would say would be the cost to run that program in its entirety, like we currently do. That would be the cleanest way to look at it.
Well, aside from clean, I'd also like it accurate.
Okay, well, that's accurate. So it's that conversation that we kind of go back and forth on is, it's not like I get one for a person, so it's a little bit of everybody.
I understand that.
yeah, changing the model definitely would have a negative impact on our graduation rates at the high school level. Kids would struggle to recover credits if they need to graduate.
So are we gonna start clicking boxes or
Sure.
click as many boxes as we can?
I
can
would
see
click
what it's
some boxes that I
Okay.
think that you've already talked about. It's, can't do two hands, I apologize. I clicked the district office base admin assistant custodial positions, one for each building, consolidating the summer school program. Do you want me to leave that on or take that off?
Take that off, yeah, we don't want it. Well, what we need is the difference, whatever that we get.
Right now, that's roughly the difference
Okay.
between the previous model that we had and what we currently are doing. I can figure
Okay.
out that number, but that would be the
Okay,
difference.
all right, that's fine, if it represents the difference, I'm fine with that.
Okay, so click or not?
Yes.
Okay, great. And then I did click the behavior, oh my gosh, the behavior intervention coach, because that's currently a vacant position, so we could not fill that right now. And I believe Kelsey Badger has stated that that would be okay to not refill that position. The other things I have clicked on here, 39 is also an open position, the transportation assistant director. None of our other departments have assistant directors. It's a director and then the staff. And so it is a current vacant position. I believe that would be a fair, our transportation director has offered that up as a cut as well.
Okay.
So. The other things I have clicked down here are the cell phone stipends, reduced district office supply budget, the cut district office business operations supply budget, printing budget, cancel garbage service. I did click on the Skyward Learning software because that's an easy transition to the state
Yep.
technology funds. I will true up the number for the shipping containers. I just have to go down there to do it. So I will fix that one as well. And then I have eliminate quarterly press subscription because we've already eliminated that. Would you like me to cut the TLE air conditioning?
Well, at this point, I'm not in favor of that, and I'll tell you why, because if we move a population,
A school within a school?
yeah, I just don't know that that would be the best environment for them, if we go that way, you know?
not
No.
Maytag.
Which stipend?
Scroll.
Are you wanting the hard to fill or the extra day mentors and extra pay for extra duties?
All of them.
There's all of them.
For the hard to fill, I just feel like it's important to note that most of those hard to fill positions are for our special education teachers. And it was an incentive to get them to come on, to get away from contracted services. So the short game is we cut them, the long game is we pay in contracted services triple the cost. So that's just a factor. That's why we
Given that they're all
incentivize.
lumped in together.
That's why we pulled out hard to
Hard to
fill.
fill
We
is
separated.
separated.
Hard to fill is going 47.
And the extra days, mentors, and extra pay for extra duties.
What do you have for hard to fill? One.
162.
The document that was given to us totaled 136.5. So I'm looking at what I did was I went back to the board meeting where we approved the stipends in October, and that totaled 136.5. Have more stipends gone out?
It does include benefits.
So those probably didn't include that amount probably didn't include benefits.
There is
Probably
mandatory
just-
benefits on stipends, so I factored in retirement, Medicare, and FICA.
Okay, all right. Okay. Then go ahead and read them. I do get it, yeah.
That's why we separated them, just.
Okay.
Did you get the athletics and the trainers and all of that also?
I believe so.
Okay.
Are we clicking the $500,000 reduced transportation budget, or are we just leaving that?
We should, that should go down. Yep. And the retirements and resignations.
Can you explain the boxes you're checking and not checking? I'm kind of confused out here.
We're saying what's going to the levy.
So like the shipping containers are checked.
So those are cuts.
Those would be cuts coming out of the levy.
So
Dollars.
what I believe is we're trying to get to the 9.52 cut, and then we'll highlight what we would like to go to the levy. We're trying to get to the 9.52 in case if we do rerun the levy and it doesn't pass, I still have to build the budget. So if we can identify the 9.52, and then I'll go back in and highlight the things that are going to go to the levy. For example, I could highlight yellow the pay to play for athletics and co-curricular. It wouldn't be pay to play anymore. It would just be something that would be covered by the levy. So there's kind of two functions for the spreadsheet right now.
think doing
And have
this,
her click the building and lab techs.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think doing, Kelsey, doing this work and having both pieces of information, if, when the board takes action on what amount of a levy we're going to run, it will be good for patrons to be able to see this is what it looks like with 9.52 out of the budget, and this is what it will look like if we put some of it back in, so that there's clarity, because that was the biggest concern. So.
Did all the technology positions, did you click those?
No, because they're, when they have more than one position.
Okay. Well, I'm just. You know what I'm talking about. Click that. College and high school dual credit stipends. These cell phone stipends. Which I still don't know how we get to 20,000 on that, but
The cell phone statements also include the district paid cell phones.
okay.
So it's not just a stipend, it's, we do have some phones in the district that we're paying for the phone instead of the stipend.
Okay.
Did you get the building lab text? Did we
Yep.
select that? Okay.
Yep.
It's okay.
And the assistant director, right? We got that for transportation.
Yeah, because that's not a filled position right now.
Yeah.
So it's not linked to a.
And what about
an individual
the
person.
technology admin assistant?
Yes, that's linked to a person.
Oh.
Click it.
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, I see. So there's some on here that are one-to-one.
Right.
Oh, gotcha.
Right. What's that?
How many texts are we cutting?
So anything that's up there that is specific to a person right now, we're not flicking, even though that's a position.
Right.
Correct. It's $495.
So maybe at the end, you just calculate those that we can and add that amount.
Explain that for what they're saying.
So the reason we can't click some of them is because if it was a pool of people, it's different than identifying a person, a student, that's protected. So we can't do that.
So that brings us almost up to
We're at
6 million.
We also have the 4-day school week items down below.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Deputy code.
I think we should pilot that for a year and see what happens. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. You know, it seems like the other districts around us that have done it have, actually it's worked in their favor for the families, for the staff, for everybody. You know, at first it was an odd thing, but from the people I've talked to, I've gotten a lot of, from all, you know, parents, staff, I've gotten a lot of good feedback.
I agree, and Post Falls Task Force for the first time in a long time, they actually outperformed us last year.
Wow.
Moving to a 4-day week, so they were able to show that if you're intentional, you can still have high student achievement.
There was a recent article that shows that out of 115 school districts in the state, 76 of them are now on a 4-day school week.
Right, right.
If you add that in, you're roughly at 6.6 million with the 4-day school week added in.
Still a long way to go.
Does each building have its own environment regulations, so their air conditioning and heat and all that? It's not centrally ran, it's ran at each building?
No, I think that facilities has control over the temperature settings at most of our buildings, if not all.
Thank you.
Yep.
So how many months are we running the air conditioner out at Twin Lakes? Would it be like 3 months?
Tim is saying 2. So probably end of the school year and then the beginning of the school year, like September and May.
Right.
So not very much, but it's still potentially significant there.
I do know that we got a number from the LEA. They actually spent some time, and they had come up with right about $100,000 in utilities difference for Twin Lakes than the other schools in the district. I would be curious if we might look into that a little bit more and see where that is and why. I know that we've covered a lot of leaks and different things little by little that, you know.
We've already started that process as we're looking at utilities and wondering why they're so much higher. That's one of the things that we've already started down the road. One of the things we did identify was the cooling towers for that building. Tim, would you like to speak to it specifically?
Yeah, no, that's correct. Yeah, Twin Lakes Elementary has had a abnormally high utility bill.
Yeah.
So we're looking into that. I've contacted Avista and Kootenai Electric, do some energy audits, things like that, so we can identify where we're burning energy.
Okay.
Oh, perfect, thank you.
And they do those for free.
Yeah.
Yes. And there are rebates associated with some of that as well.
Good. Good.
Perfect, thank you.
He's doing a great job for the first month of his.
Yeah, we have been here a month.
Scroll back up to the 12. That's where it gets. Scroll back up. Okay. You are? Oh, okay. So the assistant principals would be 250,000. Not knowing. The principal's assistants? Is that-
Yeah,
No,
we're
it says
almost
assistant
900,000,
Where are the principal's assistants?
17.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so we got the full positions? No. Is that the full idea? It's not the difference. Right. Right. 27,000 that we approved in October.
So this would cover the difference on
Okay.
that.
Okay. There's no reason for me to come up with this. No. What was that?
And I think part of our problem is that a lot of this on this spreadsheet is linked to one single individual. If we had pools,
That would help.
yeah, well, we would have to still have it in executive session. We couldn't do that. So as far as this spreadsheet saying 9.52 million tonight, I don't see that happening. I think what we would be better to do is, we've already identified the sports and the activities and the crossing guards, all of those positions, and then running the levy for the 7.5 or 7.4 or whatever it was.
7.52.
5.2. Yeah, because I'm not quite there. I'm at 7.4.
So if.
Is the board in a place where we can maybe take action at least on identifying that you want to run a levy and the dollar amount and formalize that so that we can start reaching out to our attorneys to work on the ballot language, because there is a short timeline for that as far as getting ballot language to the counties.
Do we know what that date is?
Mid-March.
So the timeline's mid-March, did you
We
say?
have to have it to a mid-March, but we have to have the documentation. I would recommend, if we are going down the road, that we are a lot more specific in our line items and have more clarity as to what those broad categories cover, so that our the voting taxpayers are able to see exactly what this levy is covering. And we've heard it from our community. We've heard it from the space that they want to know exactly. They want to know what they're losing. So I would propose that the ballot language, if the board determines that we would like to rerun this, is very specific to that. We can make it as big as we would like to, so there's no constraint on that.
So I have another question. The advanced learning teachers and the elementary specialists, are they just teachers are they single individuals, or are they teachers also doing this? I know we have a lot of staff that does like 2 and 3 things at a time.
Every building has an ALP teacher in, I think, 4 out of the 6 buildings. That person is part of the specialist pool. Every other 4 of the buildings have an additional person. Garwood and Becky, for being the bigger elementary schools, have 2 certified staff, but they are part of the specialist rotation. ALP teachers, by design, were hired to provide advanced opportunities for K through
3 teachers because our gate program started 4th grade. So in addition to they see every single K through 3 teacher that qualifies for this program, they additionally then had enrichment opportunities for our 4th through 5th graders, 3rd through 5th graders that don't participate in GATE. So they see all of the kids, but they are not a classroom teacher through the lens of they have an assigned classroom.
So they're their own individual. That's all I'm trying to
Yes.
understand is if we're identifying just another hat somebody's wearing, or this is
They are their own.
okay. And the elementary specialists.
So most of them are PE, music. One building has a specialist that does science. Again, every building has one certified specialist. Everybody has a librarian. Everybody has a building lab tech. Garwood and Betty Keeper have an additional. So Garwood has a science teacher. Betty Keeper has a music teacher.
But none of those, they're all non-classroom teachers, just they teach all kids. They're specialists.
Well, we have to provide music by law, so we can't get rid of music people. So we don't have them broken out either, so we don't really, it's a lump sum. And then, so I guess my other question then, being that we're talking science and math, is the funding that we get from the state, the math and science requirement funding and some of the other, are those dollars used for these positions? Or
But those were specific, when the statute came out, those were specific for high school because the state increased the requirements for graduation for math and science, so they gave us additional dollars for math and science staff.
Right, so are we going to continue to get the additional dollars for the math and science?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no indication from the state that they're doing away with that, especially since their focus right now is math, for sure.
I believe, and I will go back and double check and bring this forward, but I believe when they're looking at the weighted student average that they're bringing forward in legislation, they're rolling some of those math dollars into that weighted student average.
They were going to do that when they were giving us, when she had that 3rd pot of money for ISAT proficiency like we do with the IRI.
Yeah, so they're
that
kind of
still there?
consolidating some of those costs. It'll make it easier for reporting for me, which I appreciate. But yeah, that's part of that weighted student average is consolidating some of those costs and putting a dollar amount per student to it.
Ida was really good at Michelle game.
Well, seems to be a cross education.
I do think this is a good time to point out if we do run that levy for $7.5 million, if we go back to the House Bill 521 property tax relief, this year the state gave us a range. We won't know the number until August. They told us it would be anywhere from 77 million to 200 million that they would disperse across the state. It was 140 million that they actually dispersed, which is about 2.3 million that we were able to take off of our current supplemental levy. So instead of actually levying 9.52 million this year, we're only levying 7.14 because of that property tax relief. That would come into play in the future if we have a supplemental levy on the books. We can't guarantee the dollar amount because we won't know until next August what it is, but we will receive something. We received 1.75 million in the first year, 2.37 this year, so it'll be a range in there. I just want to make sure that everybody is aware that that will help offset if we do run a 7.52. We get a 2.3, it would actually bring it down to 5-ish million that we're levying at the local level.
Okay, so where are we at on your number there? 3?
3.4 left.
It's
Oh,
6
minus, yeah.
pulling out right now. I guess the other, I mean, if we're going off of big numbers, the principal's assistants, number 17.
That number I feel like is a little bit misleading because we wouldn't actually eliminate those people, we would eliminate that position. And so the savings for us is the stipend amount, not their salary.
Which is
So-
only 32,000.
Right.
So why is it on the spreadsheet?
That's the full.
That's the full cost. So it would be a similar thing. It would be swapping personnel because we owe those people a position. They don't just leave. So we would swap out some category ones for that. So if you would like to swap the principal assistants back into the classroom, we could in theory take a portion of the category one line item for that swap instead of clicking the principal assistants.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you put them both on there in case we wanted to swap one for the other. Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, you would definitely save the 32,000 for the stipends and then the difference between their salaries and the salaries of the category ones who are leaving. Because those jobs are over.
But there's 16 category ones and there's only 9 principal
So we would
assistants.
take a portion.
Okay.
At the elementary level, that would be a huge hit. The expectation of the elementary principal, and I only can speak to this because I've only been out of the classroom or out of the school for 3 years, it would be really difficult for them to do their job, to maintain all of the growth we've made instructionally with achievement, the personal care that they provide for our kids, for parents. Trying to do that solo would be really, really difficult without an assistant. When I was a principal, when I first started, we didn't have keys. I at least had an instructional coach. So for them to have to do this by themselves would impede their ability to do their job and do it well.
Right, so there's no assistant principals on here, so they don't have like some schools have the assistant principal and the principal's assistants. So these are across all of our elementary schools and
We have
almost all of our schools, really. We're only
our
short
6
2.
elementary schools have a PA. We have one at the middle school, at Timberlake Middle, that's shared between Timberlake Middle, Timberlake High, and then we have one at Lakeland Middle.
And one at Mountain.
And now,
We don't have that transportation budget of $500,000, correct?
Oh, we don't? I thought we clicked it. Yeah. We need to.
Oh, we
click-
did?
Oh, yeah.
It's just not green like. Oh.
Because technically it would be $1 million for the levy, so I'll put it.
Oh, yeah, we had a question about that, why there
That's
was $1 million for the levy, but only 500,000 talked about cutting. Somebody did ask that question.
When looking at the routes that our transportation director had identified, the cost of those routes was about $500,000 that she had identified for cuts, keeping double routing. So that's why the $500,000 was on there versus $1 million. Yes, it does cost us, if we left everything the same currently, it does cost us $1 million more than we receive in transportation reimbursement to run that program as it exists currently. So we would still, any changes to it, probably not verbalizing this very well, any changes to that also has a change to the potential reimbursement. So it's kind of a balancing act.
Right.
There are also, in addition to that 500,000 on here, there are some transportation positions that are listed that would be in addition to that 500,000 that we can.
Yeah.
One of the line items we haven't talked about, and I know this is not going to be popular, but when you look at salary-based apportionment, the difference between what we pay our certified staff and what we get is $3.1 million, and it's such a complicated formula. And we pay stipends. We direct flow through stipends to the teachers. If we maybe talked about have a compromise, and maybe half of the stipends flow through to the teachers and half come back, because we paid out $1.2 million in just 8 stipends last year. And I understand how that all how it all comes to us, and it's not clean. But when you look at the way the salaries are all kind of put together, our weighted average for our certified staff is $60,000, but they take that $60,000 and multiply it across just the 218 staff that they're allocating for us, not the full staff that we have. So we actually get less than $60,000 per teacher, and our salaries are, much higher than that. And then on top of that, we are paying out all those stipends. So there could be a little bit of a savings there if we maybe just choose to pay a portion of it and not all of it. There's a little bit of a savings there. Again, not popular because our teachers are working their tails off in the classroom, and I get it, but that's money that we could save that doesn't cut positions. And we are, I think, the only district in the state, maybe there's one more, that has a direct flow through. Everybody else is kind of doing some version of the same thing.
Well, and the money and the way, the funding and the way it was done anyways goes away, right? I mean, it's
just part of
the
career ladder.
5th year, yeah.
Yeah, it's the part of the career ladder funding.
Well, and I did say, I know that we consolidated down to where we have this one ladder with rungs, but yet in the statute, there are actually 3 bases for salary. And when you go to the 3rd base, it's actually, I believe, $11,500 more starting pay than lane 2. And the difference between 1 and 2 is $3,000, which is the money. Mm-hmm. So I think and I know Brooke is not here, and I appreciate the work that Brooke, and I believe it was a teacher up at Timberlake, went into creating this one long ladder, but we are double dipping if we are paying much higher and then doling more out, and we're not in alignment with what we are obligated by statute. And each year it's increasing, so we are going to have to look at the salary matrix before we can even consider entering into negotiations for next year. Levy or no levy, we're going to have to look at that because something's off. And when we're paying $1 million, what was that? Was it $1.2 million in stipends just to accommodate APE money that I do believe has been absorbed actually into their salary. So, and I do know that it's been you've brought it that we're doing this wrong, but when you actually break down the statute and you can actually show in the statute where that money lies, it's a little bit easier to understand and explain than just saying, well, we're doing it wrong. It's just a pass through. There's no comprehension of, well, that doesn't make any sense. So we will need to focus on that for when we go into negotiation. There has to be some adjustment there. But
I'm just bringing that forward because we're struggling to get to the 9.52.
Right, but when I'm looking at what you provided us, the salary-based portion of calculations, I'm trying to understand how you got some of the numbers. I mean, I think I figured it out, but they're off. So they're off based on what I'm believing you did, because my adjustment shows that we're actually $2,053,490.01, not $3,148,548.97. So because I don't know what it is that you used from the information that you gave us.
For that specific spreadsheet, I went position by position for this existing year. So basically, we report to the state where our people are on the state's career ladder. So I compared where they're at on the state's career ladder
Right.
amount, multiplying that by what I anticipate will be our support units this year at 218.5. 218.5 times the 1.02, that's in the state statute, that gets us to the total. I don't have that document up, if you can take just a second, I can pull it, but.
No, that's okay. I mean, we can
But
spin.
essentially, what it is I looked at exactly what the state career ladder says they would give us, place it on the salary-based apportionment matrix to get to the state's weighted average salary. That includes masters, bachelors,
Right.
and in those numbers, in addition to the state career ladder, and then compared to what we're actually paying those individuals. So the dollar amount that you see for the general fund portion, that's what our contracted amounts based on stipends and where their contracted salary is on our salary matrix and their master's and bachelor's stipends. So that takes all of that into account. So it's comparing apples to apples, what goes into the state salary-based apportionment matrix and what we're paying out. So that's what the difference is it's exactly what we're paying out versus how the state calculates what they're giving us.
Can you please put in the classified support staff?
Well, it's just a very
no.
tedious process.
I just want to know the I just want to know the numbers.
Yep.
And then the administrators too.
Yeah. The intention for this sheet in particular is there's more backup data that will go with it that will walk you through exactly what the salary-based apportionment calculation is, what the matrix would look like, how that data is entered to get to the numbers that you're seeing there. So there will be additional information that comes forward with this, but for the sake of the conversation related to the additional general fund support that goes into what we receive from the state versus what we're paying out, that's where this came into that conversation at this point. My whole intention is to bring all of that to you and then how the state calculates salary-based apportionment to try to provide as much light on that lovely convoluted formula as I can.
No, I hear you. You have actual, and then you have a salary, and then you have a total. And so that's where I was just,
So I have a question about the above. So we have 50, almost 51 personnel over state funding, right?
And the tricky thing with that is when you compare actual general fund positions to the staff allowance from the state, it seems to be less. But when you divide our average actual general fund salary by what we're paying out, that difference, that's where you get to those 50 positions. Because the state's giving us a funded salary of $60,350 for 223 staff, but we're paying out average actual general fund salary of $60,570 for 243 staff. So I tried to give you the formula in there. If you look at general fund positions above state funding, it's B, which is general fund salaries above state funding, that 2.2 million divided by A, which is our actual general fund average salary. So that's how we get to that 37 positions above, because I'm trying to level the playing field by showing average versus average. Because again, as we all know, we don't fully cover everything.
So did we select the salary-based apportionment, the 3 million? Did you click it?
If you click that, I would have to unclick retirements and resignations because I feel that would be double dipping. There are positions that was put in there just to kind of show the difference. I feel it's difficult to pick that and then pick the additional positions because I feel you would be double dipping.
So you feel we would or we would be?
We would be.
We would be, okay.
Sorry, I'm tired.
No, you're fine, I get it. We talked earlier, I know. All right,
So do you want to click one
Yeah.
and unclick the other?
yeah, do that then. Since we already talked about it, clicking the other one, we were probably gonna have to hire most of them back anyways. Because I do get what you're saying in that, yes, the stipend money flows through, but if your starting salary in this district is $20,000 above what the state funds us,
It's already there.
right, so we're doing it, and so your stipend is $3,000, so really, you know, you just got 17,000 more plus that. And that's the problem. It's like, yeah, you can figure out, you know, unit-wise, support units, you know, how many can we have where, but the problem comes in is at the pay with the salary and benefits, because I just don't know why they would expect, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, somebody to stay in a position for 6 years without a raise. I mean, you just can't do that. People won't stay. You know, and you can't 6 years before you get a raise, and they want you to start at $20,000 less than what, you know, across the border or Taco Bell, or, I mean, that's the problem we keep coming up with, is that there's just the money's just not there. It's craziness.
So we're down to 1.1, plus we have the other 500-ish.
We would be at
So
8.8, so we're about 500 short.
Okay, we're about
That would be additional classified positions.
Okay, why don't we do, we did we do custodial positions for every, okay. And we did the lab techs.
Because you got to go in Excel.
Did we do the, it's not very much, but. Oh, what would the savings be for the 4-day?
It's in there.
Yeah, we did mark that.
Oh, and is that
We were
reflected at the top?
pretty conservative, not
Okay.
having done it, and so we anticipate it being more, but we are trying to be really conservative because we don't want to project something that's not
Right.
accurate.
Right.
With all of this being a guesstimation.
Yeah.
So that would total about 5 classified staff,
What's that?
the 500,000.
Oh, okay.
It's closer to 8. Our average is about
Oh, yeah,
58,
yeah.
60, so I would say closer to 8.
And a lot of those are the one-to-ones that we can't talk about. Okay. So technically, I think we're there. There's positions that we can't talk about. And I think that's, gets us to where we're looking to be. Now we just have to figure out levy balance. Can we do that?
She's asking if we should be taking motions right now.
No, we really shouldn't. Yeah, we don't have, we can do it at the January meeting, knowing that this is what we're all here for tonight. I mean, I think we all understand that we have to run a levy. I don't think there's anybody up here that doubts that. But we have no motion tonight. The motion will have to be made at the January meeting. But we can give direction going forward, and what we want to see happen.
So I have the line items of transportation, safety, security, crossing guards, athletics, summer school. Would you like us to identify the other positions? The 4-day school week, would you like us to identify the other things that would get us to a 7.52 levy to bring forward for ballot language that would allow you to make a motion?
Yes, that sounds good. You know, the other thing I would ask, and it will be very crude and rudimentary, but I would like to take this list that we checked tonight and send it, Facebook, email, whatever, so everybody can share it to the community and have them tell us, because we can do that, have them tell us what they think of the list. Like, this is the dollar amount, this is what we've come up with so far, and this is the shortfall, this is where we're at.
So,
You know, and have them, you know, what is their suggestion? Yeah, do you like that checkbox, or are you willing to vote no, yes? I mean,
So community survey based on what we identified tonight, I could do average salary for classified staff. It's very easy to say with that 3.148 that's roughly 50 certified staff. I could do the same thing for classified to get to that 9.52 million, which is what I believe our agreement is that the rest of that would be made up with classified staff, correct?
mhm.
Okay, yeah, so I can do that, I can put that together. Would you like all the options on there available, or would you just like what we've selected tonight to get to the 9.52 cuts?
Well, I think it needs to be very simple and clear cut to the community, so whatever is the most simplistic identification, I think is what we
That's
need to
very
do.
easy, what we've identified tonight, I'll just, based on an average salary, tell them how many classified position cuts we would have to have, and we've already identified what the certified cuts would be. And then the rest is other line items. And then you would like that to go out to the community to just get their feedback on if they have any other suggestions for cuts other than what we've identified?
Well, or just their opinion, you know, I mean, would you check those boxes? Would you not check those boxes? I mean, maybe they think something's more important, you know, and those are things that can go toward the levy, or maybe, you know.
So is that what you're looking for, Trustee Grissom? Is here's the list of what it takes to cut $9.52 million from our budget. The board is going to possibly take action on a levy, a lesser levy amount. What would you, from this list, what would you like to see included as being covered by a rerun of a levy? Is that what you're looking for?
Well, I do think though that, I mean, because this list is what was provided to us. We've expressed on various different meetings and different sessions, et cetera, of other things we think actually should be taking priority and make it to that list. So we need to provide that input that can be given dollars and added to that list, so that our voice is being heard more so than, I mean, what was provided to us was what was asked for. Just wanted to see what a budget would look like without the 9.52. This went above and beyond the 9.52, but it also didn't include everything that we've been asking for, and we want to make sure that that is on there as well. Does that make sense?
Can you make sure, just maybe send us an email, make sure we know exactly what those things are?
Yeah.
That'd be great.
What are the other ones that you were saying they have to cut?
The other ones that we have to cut?
You had no teachers, right?
Yeah, they're saying about 30 teachers or something along those lines.
From where?
I don't know.
That's the salary-based portion.
That's the 3.1 million
Oh,
that we're short. That we're not receiving, that we're not receiving funding for.
oh, right. But I just want to make this clear. So the 3 point that we talked about, 3.1, we think we could cover the majority of that by bringing the stipends back into the salary pool? No?
It would be a combination of multiple things. So basically that 3.1, we would bring those stipends back into the salary pool. Those retirements and resignations would come into play. It would be a combination of multiple items below that we kind of talked about already to get to that number. But there's no way to cut that 3.1 without cutting additional pupil services and certified staff.
Well, in October, we approved 1.149 million in the advanced professional stipends from baseline up through 5. It was $1,149,000 is what we approved in October. I don't know if more is to come, but that's what we approved in October. So we would receive that back into the salary, the $1,149,000, which is not quite half of that 3.1 million. It's less than half.
Right, so that 1.149, did you say?
Mhm.
Okay. And then, so if we unselected the salary-based apportionment and reselected the resignations and took back the 1.149, that gets us almost to the 3 million, right?
Almost, yeah.
And
That's
then,
what I was saying. It would be a combination of things that we've already discussed
oh, okay.
to get there. And the 1.149 is actually 1.391 when you factor in benefits
Okay.
for those stipends.
Okay. I don't want to cut any teachers. I'll get rid of assistant principals and principals assistants before we cut teachers.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm ready to unselect the box if it's going to cost teachers and select the assistant principals and the principals assistants. I do not want to get rid of teachers.
Right.
And that would just cut into category ones at that point. That's essentially how we would get there, is if we were to do the advanced professional endorsement stipends, take the retirements and resignations, and then the rest would have to essentially come out of category ones to make up the difference. And then you would repurpose existing staff, if it's principal assistants, what have you, into those positions.
To fill those positions.
You could even use some of the specialists at the elementary school to go back into a classroom. The advanced ALP teachers could potentially go into a classroom at that point as well.
But then it would eliminate that program, correct?
Right. The other option is to raise class sizes, which I know no one has an appetite for.
I mean, I'm just thinking 3.1 million in teacher salaries is a lot of teachers.
It's 37
Yeah, we can't do that.
based on average salary.
I mean, in my head, we can't do that.
But if we do what you're talking about, it's basically either we show what the combination is going to be down below with the 8, with the retirements and resignations in the category ones, or we don't click any of those and know that that 3.1 is going to be a combination of all of those things. So it's not necessarily that it's 37 teachers who are going, but the 8
Swapping.
stipends, we're swapping things out.
Okay, gotcha. So,
It's just how you want to show that to if we're going to send this out to the community for feedback, what's the most, they're not going to understand salary-based apportionment. If we
Right,
put
right,
that on there,
right.
they're not going to understand that.
right, so we have to show it to them.
Yes.
Okay, but here's my other question. So, if we look at these category ones or whomever else, or the, swapping the principal, assistant principals, whatever all those are there, and if they went back into the teacher pool, at what salary do they go back into the teacher pool?
They would get all their years of experience doing them. So for a principal assistant, they're already on the salary schedule for teachers, they're not administrators. So they would just stay where they are.
Right, they just get,
Right. If you're talking about an assistant principal, it would be their years of experience as teachers plus their years of experience as an administrator and then in the salary schedule.
so, I mean, what do you guys want to do? Just leave the 3? I mean, if we're looking at just the dollar thing, I mean, I don't want to, we can't afford 37 teachers,
No,
right?
absolutely not. And the goal is not to lose any teachers
Right,
at all.
right.
If you put the other things, we are losing teachers. Whatever way we do this, we're losing teachers. So we're either clicking the category 1s, the retirements and resignations, and just saying through attrition, we're absorbing those positions, which is more palatable. Where the $3 million one kind of insinuates a RIF type situation.
Right, yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, that, like you were saying, that the people who are already retiring or already going or, you know, is a little bit different than,
You know, even though those retirements, resignations, and category 1s would be part of that 3.1 plus the 8 money.
so I guess here's the only thing I can do then, I gotta see the dollar amounts, I don't know what it is. I mean, if it's a swap for a swap, if it's just,
Then there's no gain.
yeah, I don't see, if it's equal, no matter what we do, then it really doesn't matter what we check.
You do the 8 stipends plus benefits, the mandatory benefits, so retirement, FICA, and Medicare, plus the retirements and resignations, you're at 2.3 million. So I could insert a line to specifically show that, but I will tell you that will have a direct impact on teacher retention
Right,
without us addressing that in some other form.
right. I would still like to see the numbers, and what that looks like if we absorb whatever the other 16 or whatever it was we were talking about, absorb them back in, you know, as opposed to just cutting the flat 3.1.
You did 8 stipends plus mandatory benefits, the retirements and resignations, and the 16 category 1s. That would be 3.3 million.
And then you would take those other staff members and move them into those positions.
because that would work at the elementary level. A little bit more challenging, obviously, at the high school
Right.
level because we don't have PAs there, and you have to be endorsed to teach particular subjects. So there may be a couple of high school positions that we would need to bring to the board in August for you to contemplate what you wanted to do about that. But at the elementary level, we could do that. It does have an impact, as Lynn said earlier, on
Right.
how that building is run. We can't overstate what the PAs do in those buildings to help teachers and parents and kids. So recognizing we have to make that.
I guess I would just, my clarification is what staff are you talking about moving back in? Because there's only 6 elementary PAs.
And then if they talk about ALP,
Right, so all the cuts are happening at the elementary level, and you're cutting all of the advanced opportunities, all the experiences for elementary. If you took ALP specialists and PAs, all of those are at the elementary. Their specials would have to be at the end of the day, or we wouldn't be providing elementary teacher specials.
Well, I
You're
wasn't-
obliterating what elementary provides.
No, I wasn't talking about all them. I'm trying to see the difference between the category ones and the retirements, right? Whatever that 3.1 number was,
Right.
basically it was a swap, whatever those two things were, is what I was
That's
asking.
only if we keep those as standalones, and then when Lisa made the comment that those other additional certified physicians cover it, so you don't have to hire out. Well, the only people that can cover that would be a PA, an ALP teacher, or a specialist, which means you're pulling all of that from elementary.
Yeah.
Because most of our elementary, they can't cover, and there's 25 total positions there. Some of them are secondary. I don't know off the top of my head, but I think it's 5 or 6. So the majority of them are elementary. So you wouldn't even be able to cover all of that, but then you're taking away everything that elementary provides.
Where are the 25 positions?
So there's 16 category 1s and 9 resignation retirements.
24.
So 24. So some of those can't be covered by elementary because they're secondary positions. There's a music position in there. So I guess if you click that, you're saying we're protecting those 24 positions and not rehiring. So who covers those positions if those students come in, unless we're looking at increasing class sizes? I guess is the question that I have.
Well, I guess I didn't understand what she was saying then, because she said those people would be, basically it would be a swap. But you're saying it won't be a
in the
swap.
sense they're going back into the classroom, but then you're pulling. So if we take ALP, then elementary doesn't get to offer any
Well, I'm
ALP.
talking, where's the ALP coming from? That's in the category 1?
No,
It's advanced learning teachers.
No, I know that, but I didn't bring up that category. I said category 1 and the retirements and resignations.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't say ALP or the elementary specialists or any of that.
Right, what we're talking about is the category 1s in particular.
Right.
The majority of them are elementary, and the majority of the elementary category 1s are in the K-3 classrooms right now. And so we either have really big numbers in those, or we have to replace them in some way. So you're either replacing them by eliminating programs and moving those teachers back into classrooms, or we have to rehire.
Well, it still doesn't get us to 37 positions, though. If 3 million gets rid of 37 teachers, I mean, even doing that doesn't get us there.
That's because we factored in the 1.2 or 1.3 million of age stipends.
Yeah, I'm fine. I was trying to go back and find that document we had that gave us so many teachers per building.
Right.
So I could look at those against my numbers.
Gave it to
Document.
you at the December 18th, it's the, I think the third.
Yeah, it's just so spread out. I'm trying to find a quick number.
I put those on the spreadsheet that I created and sent to everyone.
Yep,
Okay.
the staffing right here.
Yeah. Dave,
Yep.
any other input you'd like to offer tonight?
We're gonna read Bob's statement.
Nobody has Bob's.
Jason does.
Jason does?
Yes.
Okay. Maria, would you go down and get Bob's statement from Jason if he has it? Because Bob never sent it to any of us. You're fine. I'm okay with Jason.
I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care, whatever.
Just pass it away. Pass it this way.
Jason,
Yeah.
can you come on up here? Trustee Jones has had surgery and is still home recovering. He would like information read into the record, and he's requesting that only Jason, the LEA president, read it. We have asked him to send it to send it to the clerk. He stated he would send it to the entire board, but none of us have received it. So we'll go ahead and let Jason read what it is that Trustee Jones would like to have read into the record.
Maria said that Bob wants you to do it, so I'm just trying to respect that. She was supposed to read it as a compromise, but he doesn't want that, so go ahead.
Well, yeah, that's what he told me.
It was fine.
He told me that he wanted me to read it. And nobody else.
I don't know what any of the plans are, so just, you're going ahead and reading it, and that's totally, we're so late in the game here, it's 9:07.
kind of what they do.
We're fine. Yeah, go ahead and read it. Well, he wants it read into the record, so please read it for him into the record.
Hi, my name is Jason Bradbury. Bob did request wanted me to read it, not as the LEA president, but just somebody in the district that he wanted to read his comments to be put into the record. I had no offense to anybody, it was just he wanted somebody to read it and chose somebody to read it. So it says, it's entitled Open Letter to the Lakeland Community Students, Staff, and Patrons. I have asked Jason Bradbury, who represents the majority of our staff, who in turn reflect our mission on the two students, to read my remarks into public record this evening, since I am unable to participate directly due to health issues at this time. I regret that I cannot be present personally, but with the love and admiration I have for the Lakeland School District and community, I feel strongly about taking the opportunity to share my thoughts and feelings and to set forth suggestions for the future. Firstly, let me say thank you to all who have offered input and comments concerning our current financial crisis. We have listened diligently and we hear your voices. Though we understand the urgency for direction, it is imperative that we do our due diligence in coming to conclusions about the way forward. Please be patient as we work through some very complex issues. Secondly, I offer my personal apologies to Superintendent Lisa Arnold and CFO Jessica Grantham for feeling compelled to prepare for and attend and be at tonight's meeting while each of you are out on medical leave. It's truly unfortunate that you had to be here, but I thank you very much. Sometimes it is helpful to know where we have come from in order to draw proper perspectives about where we are headed. Therefore, I ask for your indulgence and patience as I try to lay out some significant facts of Lakeland's rich past, which many newcomers to our community simply do not know or maybe not even appreciate through no fault of their own, but for which their awareness and or understandings may help to draw our community together as we move forward. Excuse me. Even many of us old-timers have forgotten much of our past, but since we are in the business of education, here I go. Thank you. Communities making up Lakeland School District were very small when I first arrived back in 1971. The district was still struggling and could come out of the throes of the state consolidation mandate in 1949. Lakeland is a combination and amalgamation of several small elementary districts and 3 high school districts at that time, from a number of very small, distinct local communities. Some of these areas were longtime rivals, both as schools and as communities. Coming together as one school district was not always easy and often brought old tensions to the surface. But finally, in the early 1960s, after some 11 odd bond election attempts, the district patients agreed to build a new consolidated high school, now Lakeland Middle School, where students from throughout the district would attend. Athol High School had been consolidated into Spirit Lake High School some years earlier. Agreement was reached by patrons, accepting the new high school would be built somewhere between Spirit Lake and Rafter. So the plan was in place and the site was selected approximately 1 to 2 miles north of Rafter. The site required water, so a well was drilled, but simply ended up completely a dry hole. The board at that time, said that was not a problem, we'll just move to a new school site into Rafter. Obviously, the outcome caused many of the old tensions to boil over once again. The struggle and tension between the North and the South lingered on for many years. As time moved on to the 1970s, John Brown Elementary became possible and the brand new elementary schools in Athol and Spirit Lake were approved and constructed. Athol Elementary was originally just a 3-classroom school with a small multi-purpose room, and now look at it today. After several significant additions approved by the patrons, it's large enough to accommodate over 400 students with its full-size multi-purpose room, complete library, lunchroom, space, extended playground, etc., and full-fledged programming along with it. We have come so far over the years by coming together time after time again at Lakeland Community. Going into the 1980s, the district began a real growth spurt and student enrollments grew and doubled. By that time, the district had grown so much that the call went out to build a new Lakeland High School. Once again, our strong Lakeland community came together as one to pass the new bond for the school that opened in the fall of 1979. The move to the new high school opened for the opportunity for middle schoolers to attend Lakeland Junior High and for elementary students to be spread across different grade configurations that meant 5th and 6th graders could now be housed at Rafter Upper Elementary, which is now Mountain View Alternative High School. When I first came to Lakeland, there was no kindergarten, not even a half day. There was no hot lunch program. School safety officers had never even entered anyone's mind. There were no elementary libraries short of the classroom set of the teachers' classrooms. There were very limited multi-purpose rooms or gyms in elementary schools. There was no alternative high school. There was no K-Tech of expanded vocational technical opportunity. Special education classes were far and few between. Electives and extracurricular programs were often limited or in some cases non-existent until years later. All of these things were brought into being over time and expanded upon based on the influence of parents wanting more and better opportunities for their children. Most of the new programs were directly associated with required new or added facilities approved through patron support and bond issues. Time after time again, the Lakeland community came together as one to support the necessary funding for those new facilities so that the program's parents wanted their children to be offered at. Lakeland has a rich history of coming together time and time again to fund new and expanded opportunities for students. Pride in Lakeland as the school system and community began to grow. As the enrollment grew and doubled again, the need for additional elementary schools became apparent. Thus, the building of Garwood Elementary took place again with wholehearted support from patrons to meet the need. There were some who criticized the district for not building fancier structures. But the truth is, more than one instance, the district had to bond to every last dollar of bonding capacity just to build enough classrooms to keep up with the growing enrollment. Our aim was never to build architectural monuments. Rather, we simply set out to build what was needed to meet the program the students needed. As the pressure kept coming due to increased enrollments, the district began to ask parents, how important is class size in small schools? With the direction from the Lakeland community, the board responded by actually establishing limits on how large schools should be allowed to grow. Small schools and small class sizes became the way and future of our Lakeland schools. We call it the Lakeland way. And it was the right thing to do for our kids. And during the 1990s, with the growth still upon us, Betty Kiefer, named after one of the finest third grade teachers who ever walked the halls of John Brown Elementary, was approved and built, allowing for the redistribution of elementary students into smaller class sizes. Pride in the Lakeland School District and Lakeland community began to soar. Lakeland was being recognized statewide for the School of Merit and School of Excellence awards, time and time again. The Idaho Teacher of the Year and Idaho Principal of the Year recognitions were also received along with others. Even some national awards were bestowed. Realtors often advertise Lakeland as a premier school district in North Idaho. Perhaps some of you out there today are even here now because of that widespread reputation. We did not always pursue such accolades, but humbly accepted them as a job well done by an outstanding staff that brought together over the years. Then, in 1999, with enrollments bulging in secondary schools, the Lakeland community came together and approved a new bond issue to build the new Timberlake Junior and Senior High School in Spirit Lake. What a blessing that was. We had come full circle. With a new secondary school in the north, students could spend less time of their day traveling to and from school and more time participating. With the new school, double the number of students could participate in sports and activities. And over the years, Timberlake High School has blossomed into one of the finest educational institutions in the north. Then finally, in the early 2000s, growth of enrollment was catching up again. And once again, the Lakeland community came together, as always, to approve funding that led to our last bond issue of the construction of Timberlake Middle School and Twin Lakes Elementary. Today, we stand tall, knowing that our students are properly housed in small schools with small class sizes. We have responded to the will of the community to accomplish superior schools on very frugal budgeting. The Lakeland School District carries no debt. Everything is paid for due to the foresight and generosity of the Lakeland community, parents, and patrons. And so you may say, so what? You might notice some common threads throughout the narrative already. The coming together time and time again for the common good of our students, parents seeking more and better opportunities for their children, the district responding to the needs in Lakeland community, providing the resources to offer more and better opportunities, unity of purpose, and striving to provide the very best schools and staff we can afford for our students. Now, getting to our current financial crisis. How did we get here? It was certainly not by design, but probably more for complacency. Complacency on the part of the school district, by assuming because we had experienced great community support in the past, that it would simply continue to be there automatically. Complacency on the part of the district that led us to not help newcomers fully understand and appreciate the Lakeland way? Probably so. Complacency on the part of new members of the community, not putting forth the effort they deserve or we deserve to fully assimilate into our community and understand the intricacies and differences between Idaho school funding and operations as compared to where they may have come from. There is a great tendency nowadays to judge our schools based on past experiences and or based upon news reports or TV programs about school problems from around the country. Or worse yet, some may form opinions, not our patrons, but some out there maybe, about our schools based on what they read on social media. I got to hand it to Bob talking about social media. That's pretty cool. I think that the social media platform can cause some of the most common gossip and scourge on society because of its lack of the first person, which is direct communication. Over the years, the funding mechanisms have changed in Idaho. Due to the pressure of lawsuits, the legislature a few years ago changed the funding formulas in an attempt to meet the constitutionally mandated obligation to fully fund public schools. The problem is, they have never fully funded that obligation to date. Nearly all the school districts in Idaho were forced into supplemental levies in order to simply maintain operations at current levels. Some of the formulas are reimbursed based on the prior year's operations, such as transportation. It always falls short because it never accounts for the increased service to meet enrollment that increases and the impact of inflation. A mushrooming special education program has never kept on the year-to-year basis. The state has never funded extracurricular activities at all, even though they are such an integral part of every school and their community. So the funding shortfall for those kinds of services and others can only be made from some other revenue source, thus the advent and growth in reliance upon a supplemental levy. At times, the board and district have been accused of not being responsible in our financial operations. There are those that might say we have not been concerned about the tax burden on our taxpayers. The truth is, we asked in the last election only to continue the same $9.52 million in place for the prior 4 years. We agreed that it was our obligation to, in quotes, suck it up and deal with the same inflationary pressure that every family has to deal with. The truth is that we had in place for many years a plant facilities levy to take care of building maintenance, repair, and remodeling needs. Not long ago, the board determined not to ask for a renewal of that levy in an effort to minimize the impact that it would have on the taxpayers. But now many of those needs must be funded through the general fund, which is designed primarily for educational purposes. The truth is that Idaho law specifically allows any school district that experiences enrollment growth from 1 year to the next to apply an emergency levy to help defray the cost of hiring new teachers, purchasing furniture, books, and materials to properly care for the new students. So long as I have been on the board, we have never exercised that option in deference to the burden of the taxpayer. We are glad to accept accountability. We just ask for fair assessment based on what we do and by what we produce, rather than by what someone with a broad brush says about schools in general. 100% high school graduation rates don't just happen, but we have them. Having the highest rated alternative school in Idaho is not by coincidence. Offering more than a dozen technical professional programs at K-Tech, where students are afforded opportunity to graduate with certifications that lead directly into a good paying job, is something not frequently found in most school districts, but we have it with great success. We are not LA, Seattle, Denver, or Chicago. Heaven forbid that we ever shall be. No, our culture is much different here at Lakeland. We are proud of doing things the Lakeland way. We lead rather than just follow along. There are so many great things that can be said about Lakeland and the successes of our students, too many to even mention here. There are those who criticize us as a district and as a school board. Do we make mistakes as a district and a board from time to time? Likely so. Do we have failings as individual board members? Probably without a doubt. But who among us is perfect? Who will be the first person then among us to stand up and say, I have never failed or made a mistake? The value, though, in making errors is to learn, to correct, and to move forward without recrimination to a brighter future. We are in a difficult place, but we must find a solution and move forward together. Attacking one another and bickering of minutiae details serves to a no useful purpose. It only leads to further divisiveness and the lack of progress towards a united direction. As to our current financial crisis, there is, in my view, only one logical option. We must rerun the levy, even if it's going to be at a lesser amount to be determined. I am perfectly willing to rely on the recommendations of those in charge of the day-to-day operations and know and understand the intimate details of finance to guide the board toward the inevitable reductions of changes necessary to meet the challenges. I cannot and I will not be a party to wholesale dismantling and destruction of any great school district of ours that so many have worked so hard over the years to put in place. At this point, I wholeheartedly support the recommendation of Superintendent Arnold for a new $7.7 million levy. If I were there, I would consider it a privilege to make a motion to do so.
Did you recommend that? We haven't heard that recommendation. Thank you for sharing.
For those of you who didn't hear, Trustee Grissom said they have not made that recommendation.
No, we haven't heard that.
Or haven't
No,
heard
the
that
superintendent has not recommended that to the board.
Will that move make operating more difficult? Without a doubt. There will be changes. It may not be pretty, but I pledge to do everything I can to help make things work out with the least amount of pain possible. Is it doable, and together with faith in our community we can make this happen and revive the Lakeland spirit? I wholeheartedly think so. We have done it before, and we can most certainly do it again if we decide to come together. Assuming we are given the opportunity with a smaller levy amount, there are a couple of things worth noting. One is that the state now has in place tax relief funding. Under certain criteria, those funds shall be used as an offset against supplemental levies applied to local taxes. In our case, if we were to have a $7.5 million supplemental applied to the estimated $2.3 million of the total would be received directly from the state in tax relief dollars and not from local property taxes. Hence, the actual amount applied to the local tax rolls would be more like $5.2 million. Ironically, that same formula for tax relief would have been in place for the $9.52 million levy that had it passed. Currently, state law does not allow the district to explain any of that on the ballot that goes before the voters. So outwardly, it appears that the total $7.5 million will be applied to the local tax rolls. One can only assume that deception was put into law by design. Second, assuming that we have the new $7.5 million levy in place for 2 years, it allows time for us to partly grow our way out of it and or make necessary adjustments to limit our supplemental needs to the amount offset by state tax relief dollars in the future. The net result from that would be that no amount would be levied against local tax rolls, but the deception problem will still exist until the legislature and its infinite wisdom changes the law so that the honest information can be printed on the ballot. This approach would allow the district to continue to use the state dollars at its discretion for all educational needs. Otherwise, the law requires that those dollars be used only for facility maintenance and improvement needs. So, in the final analysis of our current situation, there really is one logical option: a new levy. Anything else akin to carpet bombing our entire system and then see what the pieces are left over. The 4,600 plus students who pass through our doors daily deserve much better than that. They are the unrepresented, vulnerable ones that we must protect in all areas and provide at all costs. Those 4,600 students come to us daily for the inspiration and hope that they have for a great future ahead of them. They are collectively our responsibility. From the beginning of my time as a trustee, I've always maintained we must make decisions based on what is right for our kids. For those parents who have begun to lose faith for the future of their children in Lakeland schools and feel that they must look elsewhere for educational opportunities. We understand the trauma for our current situation. We do not despair, but please do not despair. We will get through this and be stronger on the other side. Regardless of your decision about transfer, you and your children are always welcome in Lakeland. Now the real work will begin as we plot a new course. Let us please all come together and rekindle the true spirit of Lakeland. Let us pledge our mind, body, and spirit to do the work necessary for the best possible outcome, given our current challenge ahead. We owe it to the future generation to care for them as they will care for us when our flame begins to dim. It's time for us to all pay it forward, as those in the past have done so many times for our sake. Each generation passes the torch to the next. We cannot be the ones to allow the flame to flicker or die out. We've got this, Lakeland. We can do it. Come, let us join together in one unified effort to do what's right for our kids. In closing, let me share one piece of wisdom punctuated by my recent critical health issues. If you have your good health, you have much to which to be thankful for. If you have the support of family and friends around you, you have cause to be eternally grateful. If you have faith in our Father in heaven, you shall receive the peace that passes all understanding. Thank you for listening and your time and patience. May God bless the Lakeland School District. Respectfully submitted, Robert F. Jones, Trustee, Lakeland School Board.
$7.7 must have been a typo because he never reiterated that after.
What's that?
I said I think the 7.7 must have been a typo. 'Cause he talked about 7.5 for the rest of the. I don't know where that came from.
Is there anything else that to move forward at this time? So we will go ahead and end the evening, end the meeting tonight. It is 9:31.